tonight I'm going to be sharing with you about abstract acrylic painting. Some of the paintings that I do are representational. Um, like, for instance, this we did a color pencil workshop a couple weeks ago, and I did the sand dollars. So that's considered more representational type of artwork. But my first love is abstract. I adore abstract painting. And also, about a month or two ago, we did a watercolor abstract workshop. And this was what it was. It was based on this book right here, Abstract Watercolor, and by Kate Rebecca Leach. So these are the types of artworks that we did using. That was the inspiration. This is a piece that I made using watercolor and mark making. So do you see all the little marks here, like the little lines and the circles and the dots? Okay, that was done with watercolor. So let me show you oh, before I do that, this was some of the mark making with pen, excuse me, with pen that I showed you from the watercolor workshop. Now we're going to apply a similar technique using these mark making shapes, but onto an acrylic painting instead of onto a watercolor painting. So I'm going to hold those out. I'm going to keep these out close at hand. So when we get to the point where we're ready to do mark making, we've got that available. But instead of doing watercolor like this book and the last workshop that I did abstract watercolor, we're going to be doing abstract acrylic painting. And the artist who is the inspiration for this workshop, I found on Instagram, and this is her here. Don't worry. When I'm finished with my workshops, I go into the description of the video on YouTube and I add links to the artists that I mention or the books that I mention. So don't worry, it will be there tomorrow in the description of the video on YouTube if you want to look them up. Okay. And if you want to look this artist up, she's from Slovenia. So here's the artist. And then here is the very soft, abstracted, fun. To me, they are just so delightful to look at. And here is some of the bright colors of acrylic paints that she's using. These are the Amsterdam acrylics from Royal Talons, but tonight I will be using the new Origin acrylics from Pebeo. Thank you, Pebeo. Pebeo gave me these paints to play with. Hey, Leanne Phoenix, welcome in over on Whatnot. And let me show you some more eye candy of her artworks. But first, this is her account on Instagram. And like I said, don't worry, I will be linking it in the description of the video on YouTube. But if you're on Whatnot and you want to snap a picture of that, so you can go follow her on Instagram. It's Svetlan's art, Svetlans art. Okay, so here's some more eye candy from what she makes. And these are smaller works, maybe 4 by 4 or 5 by 5 in those squares. I wanted to show you this because this is her journal. So a lot of artists will work out, play, come up with ideas, test out color combinations in their journal. So a journal can be like a hardbound book or a journal. Hey, what is it? Deanne Art, welcome in over on Whatnot. And hey, Ava Bradbury over on YouTube, welcome in. So sometimes an artist journal can be an open book like that with a regular spine like a book. Other times it can just be a spiral bound book where you can flip the pages. But a lot of times professional artists will use those journals in order to test things out. So I love that she shows us as she's experimenting with different color combinations and techniques, she shows us the inside of her journal, which I think is really cool to see stuff like this. And then uh, there's another one of this one is unmounted. So this one she sells, as do I, with the mat on it. And this one is without the mat on it. But isn't that fun? It's simple. What I love is that this artwork is super simple, but she does come back in here and do some mark making, right? So that's with acrylic markers or with other kinds of pens like these Signo pens that I'll be showing you later. Um, it's just so much fun. I love mark making. And that I have one more page of eye candy from her before I move on. Hey, Blue Moon Treasures, welcome in over on Whatnot. And I had somebody ask me recently, does she do any large artworks? Because a lot of what we're seeing, oh, thank you, Salmon's Girl, for sharing the show. I appreciate it. Um, so what we're often seeing that she works on smaller pieces, and someone asked me, does she work on larger pieces? And I said, I don't know. I haven't even seen it. Hey there, Mariano. I'm Francesco. Francesco. Hello, hello. Um, Here she is holding quite a large canvas. So she has translated the smaller works onto a big canvas. Sometimes it can be difficult for an artist to go from a large canvas to a small area with their technique, and other times it can be difficult to translate what you put on a small surface and move it up to a larger surface. So, yes, she does work on larger canvases as well. She transports this technique onto larger canvases. So that's good for you to know, because when we go through this process today, we're going to be working on 4x6 postcard size pieces. But as you see here, she can translate it, or you can translate it up to a large size as well. Just use bigger brushes, y'all. So normally when I'm doing this kind of work on the small spaces, I'm using brushes like this. But if I'm working on a larger space, I have huge brushes. Um, so for instance, this brush right here, that's about 2 inches across or so. And that's what the kind of brush you would use on a large surface. Using the same technique, you just go up in size for your brushes. And I have lots and lots and lot. Okay, here's another one. There's another massive brush, right? So there are brushes to accommodate as you move up, but one of the tricks is just to use a bigger brush, y'all. Nice, right, Flower Gazer? And then what else did I just loved, not only is she using sort of black or dark pencil marks here, you see here she's also using white marks. There's some white marks in there. So I, between last week and this week, I bought and received a whole stash of Signo pens. So these are they're by Uni, and this is called the Uni Ball. And it comes, I was able to buy a pack of 10 different colors. So we have some fun colors to play with today. So don't limit yourself to just a graphite pencil or a white pen. You know, all the colors in the rainbow are available to us there. So I'm going to show you the couple of pieces that I made based upon um, her technique. Okay, of that soft, soft color background. And the funny thing is, I was attempting to make artwork like she does, but what you'll find is that it's easy to take inspiration from other artists, but the actual hand of the artist, meaning the way my hand moves and the color selections that I make, are just different from hers. So they have a similar feel, my artworks, but they're nothing like hers. So don't be disappointed if that's the case, because understand that each one of us our experience and our supplies and our movements of our hands are going to potentially give us a completely different look. So this is one of the ones that is abstracted, and you can see I'm using soft colors here in the background, and I'm going to show you how to mix those soft colors. And then I went back on with some acrylic markers and did some fun mark making on top. And then this one uses the same concept. Oh, thanks for the hearts. I always appreciate that. And hello there from Ukraine over on YouTube. Um, so this one, I used her same techniques for the background, but instead of just putting random marks on it, I went ahead and drew these little leaves on there and then used color pencil to put lines on it. So you can adapt these backgrounds to the kind of marks that you like to make and the shapes you like to make, but maybe this is a way for you to get that soft diffused background if that's something that pleases you. Now I put a little bit of, you see this shimmer, because I'm a shimmer girl and I like to put I can't help it. I can't help it. I guess it's a Florida thing, but I like to do the shimmer in my pieces. Now I'm storing these in little plastic bags for 4 by 6 artwork. So that's what they're fitting into, but they're a little bit larger. They're a little shorter and a little wider than a regular 4 by 6. So to mount them, I'll be mounting them just on a backing board. Let me show you a backing board, which I know I have one here. So this is a white backing board. I also have black backing boards in a 5 by 7 size. So for instance, this artwork would fit on a solid acid-free backing board like that, and I would probably put it myself on a black background because wow, it would really make it pop off. But you could also put it on a white background like that. So these should be up in my store next week on Whatnot for when I do next week's show. I'll photograph them with their 5 by 7 backings for the next show. But aren't they fun? I mean, I love the softness of it. Most of the time when I do my work, my colors are much more bold and in your face. And I really wanted to try the idea of the more pastel-y and more soft kind of look. So I'm very excited to share that with you because I was super pleased with the way it turned out. Okay, let me go ahead now then and show you some of the things that we're going to be using. I mentioned before the art supplies, acrylic paints. So you want to have any kind of acrylic paints. You can even use craft acrylic paints, okay, in the little bottles. Not a problem. The trick is we're going to be taking the acrylic paint colors and combining them with something called gesso. So gesso is traditionally a primer. That means you're going to take your paper or you're going to take your canvas. And a lot of times when you receive a canvas or canvas board, it already has several layers of gesso on it to prime the surface before you start working on the surface. And one of the nice things that gesso does for you is it gives you what's called a toothy surface for the paint to grab onto. Well, what I discovered is when I was working with these these small works, because I'm going to mix gesso, the white, in with my colors in order to get the pastel colors. This is my trick. When it dries on the paper or on the canvas, it has a very toothy surface, and that's perfect to receive pencil marks. So, and it's also perfect to receive pastel. So besides the gesso, which is acrylic, also acrylic paint, it's an acrylic primer. Hey there, what is it? Natalia Votanova. Welcome in over on Whatnot. So when that toothy surface gets created, it will accept, you see this really soft circle right here? super soft and fuzzy, right? That's actually soft pastel. So this artist I just showed you, Svetlana Art, she uses pastel, soft pastel, and which is like a chalk, and she puts that on there. And because the surface is toothy, you see the pink here, the pink dots and the blue dot, that is soft pastel. So I'm going to show you that trick of how you can get those really soft, um, soft orbs, if you want to call them that, right? On your artwork using the soft pastels after the paint is dry. Don't worry, I'm not going to make you wait till paint is dry. I prepared, when I made those other two works, I was actually working on a sheet and I have four of them made. So I'm not going to make you wait for paint to dry, okay? I'm going to show you how I created the colors and put them on the paper, and then we're going to pop to the ones that I've already made to show you how to add the marks, okay? So we can just move along, right? Now, the kind of paper that you want to use, um, if you're going to do it on paper, but you can absolutely do this technique also on canvas, okay? Which is what a lot of people do with acrylic paints is they put them on canvas. But tonight we're going to put them on paper. So I'm going to be using my typical studio paper, my favorite workhorse, which is the Canson XL watercolor paper. It's 140 pounds, so it's a heavier paper, and that makes it beautiful for doing all different kinds of artwork. But it's watercolor paper, so you can also do watercolor on it. But tonight we're going to be putting acrylic paints on it. But I wanted to introduce you to another kind of paper called fluid paper. So the Canson um, watercolor is excellent for experimenting on and working out your ideas. And I mean, you can do finished artwork on it as well. But this is a brand that their paper is just, if you want to go up to the next level of paper, this is called a block. So this paper is loose. If I show you right here, you see how all that is loose? And this paper is a block. That means there's glue on the side here and on the side here. And a lot of artists or acrylic painters who work on paper like this, it's a 140-pound watercolor paper as well, but it's the next step up in terms of professionalism. And the cool thing is, if you've got the gummed sides like this, when you're working on it, it doesn't bow as much when it gets wet. So that's the advantage of having what's called a block of paper instead of the loose pad sheets of paper. Okay. And I'm going to show you in a few minutes how we tape this up so you can have an idea of how I put the tape, tape it down in order to do the work. Another thing we're going to be using is a palette pad. Now, some people prefer to use just a solid palette, maybe a piece of glass, tempered glass, or I have a palette that I hold in my hand that's acrylic, clear acrylic. Some people have wood palettes. This is called a throwaway palette. It's a palette pad. And so in it is disposable coated papers. So this is a shiny on one side, not on the other. And this is where we're going to do our color mixing is on a palette pad. And then you are going to need some brushes. So any brushes will do. Any brushes, don't stress yourself. These happen to be some nice ones that I picked up at a Blick store, and they came in a whole set. They were relatively inexpensive. For acrylic, I like these, either this type of snappy. When I say snappy, I mean when I do this, you see how it snaps right back. It's perfect for acrylics. And then they call it this is the white Taklon, this is the golden Taklon. So these golden ones, the golden heads also, here's a big one. This is a Princeton, uh, and see, It's what I like about them is they're very easy to clean, and even if you end up getting acrylic paint that dries on it, they're very easy to clean off. You can dip them into alcohol to help dissolve the acrylic, and then wash it with a brush wash, okay? Brush soap. So these are, yeah, my favorite kind of brushes for this kind of work, for the acrylic work. Now we're also going to need a palette knife, and one with a decent size head to it. Let me show you. I have one here that has a small head to it. And the one with the small head, like this, the small diamond, is what I use when I'm painting. I use the small head, but when I'm color mixing, I need a larger size head. So we'll be using this larger head here for the color mixing on the palette of the acrylic paint. And then to keep my brushes off of the table, I use a brush rest of some sort. Okay, so that way as I'm painting, I can set them down like that and try not to get too much paint everywhere, which usually I do get paint everywhere, but it's the way it goes. Ah, and then let me see, was there anything else I wanted to show you? Oh, another kind of white paint that some people like to use to work with their acrylics. So if your acrylics are thick, there's a type of acrylic. Acrylic comes in different thicknesses or viscosities. You've got fluid acrylics all the way to your very thick acrylics. And the gesso is a like sort of a medium viscosity, as well as this particular paint is a medium viscosity. So perfect for what we're doing. But if you have paints, for instance, the golden high flow. So see where this says high flow acrylics? Golden high flow acrylics are very watery, but the pigment in it and the colors of these, oh my gosh, is so dense. So you may want to take some of this kind of fluid paint. You can still put the fluid paint in with the gesso and be able to tint. What we're trying to do is tint the gesso to get these soft colors, right? But if you have a paint that's on the heavy side, you may want to use something like this high flow, which is very fluid, titanium white. So see here where it says titanium white. You may want to use this to put in with it in order to lighten the color of that heavy body acrylic paint, because this is fluid, and what you're trying to do is get a paint that will be nice and just come off the brush well. Okay, because I find sometimes the heavy body paints, they're better off if you're planning to work in thick layers, and we're not doing that tonight. We're trying to get nice soft smooth backgrounds to work on, okay, with the colors we're going to mix. All right, let me see if there's anything else. We are going to be playing with markers and pencils. So after we have created the backgrounds, well, before we create the background, I like to put pencil marks on the surface in order to just get the artwork started. And so we're going to be using some water soluble pencils for that. And then once the artwork is done, we're going to go back over top of it with some acrylic markers in order to make those fun dashes, dots, and lines. Okay, so I've explained everything. What we're going to do now then is go over top of the table and get to painting. Let's paint, y'all. If you if this is your first time coming to one of my shows and you'd like to check out and you'd like to check out um, where I have artwork available for sale, as well as my website, you can always get to different sales play because I have artworks. I have a question over on YouTube. Hey, if I'm in Europe and I can't get shipping from whatnot, where can I go to see your work? And so here are the details. You can just snap a picture of that if you like. That'll take you to my website, deetsart.com, and then you can get those questions answered. And feel free when you're on my website to join the newsletter because I didn't do it this week because we had a technical error last week. But normally, weekly, you'll get at least one email from me telling you what the next workshops are going to be, and also sharing with you new artworks that are available. And you can let me know through replying to my emails if you have a special type of artwork that you would like to have done. Yay! All right, so let's put that away and go ahead and let me get, I'm going to just, we're going to prep our paper surfaces first, and then we're going to mix paint. Okay. So with the Canson, no, let's do this one first. Broop. The fluid paper. We're going to be working from both of those tonight. So this is the watercolor block I was mentioning to you. And we're going to create some small little bitty works here. Now, you can tape it off with either like a painter's tape like this traditional blue tape, painter's tape, or you can use something called washi tape. So here you can see different thicknesses of washi tape, right? And washi tape is just a low tack tape. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do some taping off. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come up to the top here, and I'm going to do a little, this is if you want nice clean borders. If you're not worried about clean borders because you're creating an artwork that you know you're going to put a mat right over top of, then you don't have to worry about the whole tape off thing. But if what you want to do is create artworks with that pretty white border, then you may want to consider doing this. So there was that. And notice that it's not the whole, I'm leaving a thinner space right there. And then here as well, I'm going to do it kind of thin. I don't want to take up too much of the space with the white. There we go. So there's that end right there. And then down the sides, instead of using this thicker one, oh, I'm going to put the thicker one in the middle. I'm putting the thicker one in the middle because if you think about it, half is going to go to one side and half is going to go to the other side when I cut down the middle, right? And so that way you'll get sort of a, ah, since I'm kind of a nerd, I am going to measure this. This is, oops, it would help if I do it this way. It's 8 inches. So approximately 8 inches. Where's a pencil? Of course, I have like a million pencils, but let me just find a typical pencil here. And so here's your 4 inches. I just want to make sure that I'm putting it across in the middle because sometimes your eyes can deceive you. All right, here we go. Here we go. So there's that, goes right down the middle like that. Now, did I do it evenly? There, that's better. There we are. So now, bearing in mind, I'm going to cut the middle of that. And so there'll be half the width. That's why I only went half here and half here with the tape. Okay. Now down the sides, I can do the same, or I can just take the little one, which is about half width. Is that half width? A little bit less than half width, but we're just going to go with it. So I have to find at the beginning of this one. There we go. Nice. So then I'm just going to bring this right down this side right here. And then I'm going to do it on the other side as well. And then that way the edges are protected and we can have nice, clean, white edges. Some Taha was asking over on YouTube if I accommodate shipping to Europe. Yes, just go to my website that I showed you earlier, Dietz Art. That's like the word diet, DIETZART.com. And then you'll see options there. Okay, cool. Well, let's get that. Nice. And I'm pressing it down to be sure I've got that covered. Oh, actually, I can see I didn't bring it over far enough here. A little bit further over. There we go. Nice. Isn't that fun? I just love the washi tapes. They come in all different designs and widths. They're fabulous. If you've never heard of them before, WASHI, washi tape. So what this will give when this one is done is you'll end up with two little squares of the artwork. So this one, that remember I said that we're going to work on the Canson XL watercolor paper. Well, you can tape off the paper directly, meaning I could just take the paper and tape off the paper like I just did with the fluid pad. Or what I've done here is I've taken 4x6 postcards. So I'm going to show you what those look like. See, just come in. So these are my typical Jack Richardson 135-pound watercolor postcards. Love these. They come in 50 sheet packs. I just bought two of them. This is one of the new ones that these came from. So I just bought 100 sheets of this because I use them so much. I love them. They're fantastic. So what I'm doing here is, instead of having to measure everything out, I went ahead and, oh, I got a pencil mark or something on there. I went ahead and I'm laying them right on top of this piece of paper. So you could use any paper for your backing, okay? And then let's go ahead and put the strip down the middle. Now I'm this way, I'm holding them in place for me to do the artwork on top of. I saw another artist do this and I was like, oh, that is so smart. I love that. So that she took the finished size and just taped them down. So that's what we're doing here. We're just taking the finished size of 4x6s, and then I'll know when they come off of here that they are exactly what I need to go on greeting cards. Because what I do is I do artwork on 4x6s and then I attach them to blank greeting cards like this. And so this way I've got these. I want to do it half the width. And that's kind of how I've arranged all of this. And the nice thing about this particular washi tape is that there are a bunch of clear areas so you can see through it, which is awesome. Fantastic. There we go. Deek. And then we'll do it over here as well. And then when I get done, there will be four. Okay, where's the edge of that one? Right there. When I get done, there will be four finished artworks that I can put on greeting cards, one of which will be one of the giveaways tonight. Okay, as well later. Okay, cool. So now I've got the four postcards on here, ready to rock and roll. Fantastic. Okay, so now let us mix some colors. So first I prepare my surfaces. Um, if I was doing a full 9x12 like this sheet, of course, you don't have to tape it off like this. I'm just taping it off so I can get multiples off of one that it is a series. All the artworks look similar till they talk to each other. Now let's go ahead and mix some colors. So I do the taping first if I'm going to be taping, and then I do my color mixing. Now I can see I was doing some work with clear gel on this one last night. So I'm going to set that aside to use later, another time. So this is a nice clean sheet of palette paper. And what I start with is I start with my gesso. Now, gesso does come in multiple colors, but I'm going to be using the white gesso to get this beautiful pastel-y type effect. So I'm just going to put out a bunch of white gesso in three bunches here. So you can do it as two bunches if you're just mixing two sets of color. I'm going to be mixing three colors. So there's my gesso. And I love the jar because of the way that if there was excess gesso, I could just swipe it on the edge of the jar like that in order to put it back in there. Now, another way that I like to use the gesso is like this in a tube. So this is the Pebbio gesso, and this is nice as well, where you can just open it up and squeeze some out, and you're like that, and you're good to go. But if you have excess left over, it's difficult to put it back into the tube, right? That's why I also enjoy using the tub like this. All right, so now we're going to mix three colors. Let me make sure you can see that on all the platforms. Yep. I definitely want to mix a lighter blue. So let's start. I'm right-handed, so I'm going to start on the left side, left-hand side. If you're left-handed, start on the right-hand side, okay? So I'm just going to put a little blob out. We don't need a lot because what we want is super pale colors, right? So first of all, I'm going to take some of that, about half of it, and I'm going to add some white to it. So there we go. And you'll notice that these colors in particular, I like to use these because they're super pigmented. And so because they're so pigmented, it doesn't take a lot of the color in order to tint your white. So this is actually the darkest color that I'm making. I'm going to make three colors because I like a light, a mid-tone, and a dark. So I'm going to consider that one my dark color. And then I'm going to take half of that and put it here and add more white. You may only want to mix one version of your color, then you don't need to do the cutting and you just add lots and lots and lots of white to your color. Okay, here we go. I need a little more white. I can see it's not quite as light as I want it. Bear in mind also that with acrylic paint, acrylic medium, so that's paint with no color in it. When it's wet, it looks white. Let me see if I can show you here. So this is an acrylic medium, and the medium itself is white. So when it dries, the medium, the acrylic, that's the emulsion that the pigment is in, that the blue pigment is in. It's white when it's wet and it's clear when it's dry. So what that means is that when your paint dries, it's going to be darker than the color that you see here. Okay. Um, so now I've got a darker version. I have a mid-tone version. I'm going to take half of the mid-tone version and put it here and add more white. So now I'm going to get a light, a mid-tone, and a dark. Now you can get extra, extra dark by just keeping some of the straight out of the tube color on your palette there. But yep, more white, more white, more white. It's going to take a lot more white than you think to get those really pale colors. And remember, this looks super pale right now, but it's going to dry darker. Let me bring it up closer so you can see. That is going to dry darker than that pale, pale baby blue, okay? That's why I'm saying you need more white than you think. And take a little bit more of that white right there. Nice. Okay, cool. Such a pretty color. Nice and soft. Soft and just beautiful. That's so pretty. Okay, so now we have to decide what other colors we're going to use. And I like to ask my viewers what colors they want to use. So I'm going to give you a couple of choices. We've got this beautiful turquoise blue here. And then I'm in a purple kick. I mean, I love purple. There's something about purple that I just love. So I have a basket next to me here. So are y'all okay if oh, pink. Okay. Okay, cool. Pink and yellow. All right. So we're going to go with, this is one of my favorite pinks to start knocking down the color on. This is called Vivid Pink. But if you had to, you could take a red, like this is a primary red, but you'd have to add a lot more white to it in order to get it nice and pale. So let's go ahead with this vivid pink, which is just, it's my favorite pink. Favorite pink from this Pebeo line. Now you see it doesn't take a lot of color because there's so much pigment. Oh, another thing about this I love about these Origin paints in the tube is this is a real color chip. So what you're looking at here is actually some of the paint on a little piece of paper that they apply to the tube. So instead of having to do color swatching, which you can still do color swatching like in the painter's color diary if you want to see them all in one place. But when I look in my basket, these are the actual colors that this paint is going to dry to. And I think that's huge, super important. So there's that beautiful vivid pink. And let's work with that one. So I'm going to take half of it here and I'm going to add some white. So this is why you need the palette knife. You don't want to be trying to do this mixing with your brush. It's not efficient. Okay, so that is going to dry darker. All right. It's a to like this, it looks like a medium pink, but when it dries, it's going to be darker. So I'm going to take half of that and bring it here. Add more white. Okay, here we go. All right, good. Now it's beginning to get lighter. Lighter, lighter, lighter. Look at that. Like I said, if you don't want the medium and the dark version of this, just add, you would add a little bit of color into that white blob and you'd be good. But you probably would have to keep adding more white because I'm telling you, you need more white than you think. Okay, so there's half of that. And now we're going to get really light pink. I love the light pink, right? Isn't it beautiful in her artworks? Oh, so pretty. Okay, so here's like the baby pink, super pastel. Love it. All right. And let's go ahead then and do, thank you, Flower Gazer. Flower Gazer said, pretty. Oh my gosh, they're so pretty. Now, as far as the yellow, because you asked for yellow, so this is like the three primaries, right? Blue, red, and yellow. There are different versions of yellow. So let me show you, for example, this is what's called primary yellow right there. It's a nice mid-tone yellow. And then this is a darker yellow. You see how it's still yellow, but it's darker. It has almost an orangey feel to it. So I wanted to show you that. Let me show you them right next to each other so that you understand that all yellows are not the same. Okay, and sometimes what I'll do is I will just have a mixing session where I'm testing out the colors and how they're going to mix before I actually do the finished artwork. Ooh, another yellow that I absolutely adore is lemon yellow, especially for color mixing. But you see how it's already nice and light? Let's take the lemon yellow since it's already so light. I just love the lemon yellow. For color mixing, I love the lemon yellow. All right. A nice thing on these labels also, if you've watched my shows before, is that what Pebeo did with these labels is they put on the front the light fastness. So this is an excellent light fastness. It's semi opaque or semi-transparent, and it's a monopigment. That means there's only one pigment in this color, and it's PY 184. It tells you right there. So if you're a pigment nerd and you want to look it up, I will link in the description of the video to a color website that explains what these color codes are for you. Okay. Now, this one also, this primary yellow is a PY 74. You'll find that a lot of colors that have more than one color in them, a lot of them are mixed with PY 74. And then this one is also a monopigment, meaning there's only one pigment in here, and it's PY 65, which, if you're a beginner, That's not going to mean a lot, and don't worry about it. Okay. But if you have been painting for a while, or you want to teach yourself about pigments, because that's important when it comes to color mixing, then, check out that link that I'm going to put in the description of the video. Hey, Thread and Books, welcome in, welcome in. Then check out the description of the video on YouTube when this is over tomorrow, and there'll be a link to the website, with color descriptions, the technical information there. But let's try this lemon yellow and see what we get here, mixing it with white. So here we go with that lemon yellow. So this is going to be the darker of the three. Okay, so I left half of it there, and I took half, and now I'm going to add more whites. Here we go, to get that mid-tone yellow. This is a nice bright yellow though. It's so happy, right? That's what I love about this artist's technique, is how happy the colors are. I just think they're so vibrant and inviting. All right, let's take a bunch more white and go in here. And now we're going to get the most pale yellow, right? Of this one. Oh yes, this is like a hint of yellow. It's beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, I just love lemon yellow. Lemon yellow. Oh, man, those colors are so yummy. Now, sometimes if I have a lot of colors to mix, and so let's say I had to go and mix some other colors, I keep just a spray bottle of plain water nearby, and I can just mist my palette like that, and that helps to, and I do that periodically. I'll mist it, and that helps to keep the colors hydrated so they don't form a skin over the top. Okay, so again, this is the Origin Acrylics, and oh, here's one that I'm going to show you. Has this turquoise blue, has more than one pigment in it. Remember I mentioned that this yellow is a monopigment, meaning it only has PY84 in it. This one, the turquoise blue, has PB153, PW6, and PG7. So I'm going to tell you that the PB15:3, that is phthalo blue, is the color. PW6 is titanium white. Remember I showed you titanium white earlier? So that's PW6. And then PG7 is pigment green, phthalo green. So that if you see that and you have the base colors, you can always mix the color yourself. You can try to mix the color yourself. Okay. So it's helpful to understand those codes, and see maybe the next time you buy the tubes that make up this code, and mix your own intensity. That way you can mix your own intensity that way. Isn't that fun? That's why it's good to know about colors. All right, let's see. I'm also going to get a sort of a really, really, really pale color here. So this is called titanium buff. So instead of white, sometimes I like to use titanium buff with my artworks to sort of tone down an area as I'm working. So what I'm going to do is take a little bit of the titanium buff, and I'm just going to put it on the palette here. I'll squish it so you can see what it looks like right there. It's just a very soft, sort of soft muted tan color. Um, so oftentimes I find I like to work with that color as well. And don't worry, I will be listing the colors that we're using in the description of the video on YouTube tomorrow. Okay. Now that the colors are mixed, let's go ahead, and I'm going to turn these like this. Oh, let me show you this. Remember the high flow titanium white I was talking about? Let me just put a little bit of this. This has a like a twist top, which is kind of neat. So it makes it easier for you to dispense just the right amount. So there, it's very runny. This high flow is very runny. You can use it in an airbrush because it has so much flow to it. You can use it with a dip pen. There's a lot that you can do. So I highly recommend, if you don't get any of the other high flow acrylics, that you get at least the titanium white. It can help you out of a bind. But here it is, it's almost ink-like, which is very cool. And so I could essentially do the same thing. Let's take a little bit of the pink so you can see, and I can mix the pink in with it. And then, ooh, not enough pink, right? I'm gonna need more pink. But if you want a paint that has a little more flow to it, so if your original paint that you were working with was not like this, medium viscosity, but something that was a heavy body paint, you would want to mix your colors using the high flow acrylics to get it to be more flowy to go on to the surface of your paper or your canvas better. Oops, I'm starting to get yellow in it. Whatever. I bet if I put a little bit of yellow in it, it's going to turn orange now. Yeah, it's giving it like a coral color, which is stunning, right? Because if you mix pink and yellow together, you get what? Coral or orange. So now there's a beautiful sort of coral color, which I may or may not use. We shall see. But just to, I mean, I sit here and I could color mix for hours. Okay, so let's go ahead now. I'm going to set these paints aside since we've already done our color mixing. I'm going to make sure I have some water here. Let me move this out of the way. So I've got my water, I've got my spray bottles. There we go. And I want to make sure you all can see that. Yep. I'm going to move this up here a little bit more. Okay. Yay. You can see there. Good, good, good. Now I'm going to take, which one do I want to start with? I'm going to start with this little one that I taped off. Okay. And you can either use a palette knife to apply your paint. Sometimes I do that. So I just apply the paint with a palette knife like this. What I like about applying paint with a palette knife is I can get interesting sort of rough edges like this. Can you see that? Yeah. Um, and I think that's kind of cool. And plus it tends to be quicker if I use a palette knife like this. I can cover the area faster than if I'm using a brush. But it just gives a different look to your artwork than if you use a brush. So I am going to use a brush when we get to the next let's use some of the dark yellow there. Oh, doesn't it look like baby colors? Looks like baby colors, this selection. So this is one way that you can just put color down. Let me add a little bit of the dark pink down in the corner here. And what I like is this is just you playing, play, 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 play. And you get nice soft, you see the nice soft colors there? Oh my gosh. So with a palette knife, it can be really quick like that. Now, what you want to try not to do is mix all three of these together. Let me show you that on this other piece. So this is another piece of the palette paper. But if we were to take a little bit of the blue, a little bit of the pink, so I'm trying to make them about even, and a little bit of the yellow. Eek, come here, yellow. Okay. And I mix these together, you're going to get sort of a neutral color. It's actually quite beautiful. It's because I'm using turquoise instead of a darker blue. I'm getting this like super light green. Can y'all see that? I'm going to bring it up for you. Wow. It's actually very pretty. So you see there? But just be aware that if you're going to be going over top of certain areas here, you can end up with these other colors that you may not have expected. And so I find with the palette knife, I have less control over what happens, which I like actually. That's why I do it oftentimes with a palette knife, than if I use a brush. If I use a brush, then I can put the paint exactly where I want it, right? So even though I'm essentially using the same colors here, these two are going to look a little bit different from each other. And that's the whole idea. This is considered creating a series. So instead of just working on one painting at a time, I'm actually working on two paintings at a time in this case. So I just went a little bit darker with the blue here. So this one, I'm just not going to put any pink in this one. I'm going to leave it with that kind of really cool green color and the yellow. There we go. So that's using a palette knife to apply your paint. Now, of course, oh, thank you. Yeah, color flower gazer said, great color. I know. See, that's why I like to color mix often and play because I would never have guessed in a million years that putting those three colors together would give me that beautiful, soft green color. Never, never would expect that. So that was a pleasant surprise, right? But I love it. I love that you can experiment like that and then discover things. Oop, there's a little bit of area here where there's no green. So I'm going to put a little bit of blue there. Boop. There we go. Nice. So is that and that. Now, sometimes when this paint dries, when acrylic paint dries, it evaporates. And as it evaporates, sometimes it will pull away from the surface of the paper. And so after it's dried, sometimes you can find white marks. If you're working on a textured paper, which these are what cold press watercolor, which means the paper has texture, it's not smooth. And so sometimes as it dries, it can pull away from the surface and then you end up with white spots. So oftentimes I will go back and after it dries, I'll go back. Like I can see right now, there's some white on the edge here. There's a little white spot right here. So I'm just going to clean off. This is another reason why I love palette knife painting because it's that easy to clean it off, right? And then just keep going. So let me pull a little bit of the yellow from over here and I'm going to cover that little blank spot right there. And over here we've got pink. So let me just grab a little bit of the light pink and come in here and cover over the area where there was no paint there. Okay, fabulous, fabulous. So now over here, can you see the white spot right there under the blue? So it's not something that I noticed initially. And sometimes you'll say, but I know I covered everything. But that's the point. As this paint dries, it evaporates and it shrinks. And so that can happen to you. Okay. It's normal. It's normal. So not to worry. So I'm going to put some light blue over here to sort of cover that area where that appeared. That whiteness appeared. Now there's a little bit of white down here as well showing now. So I covered that over. So you're going to watch it as it dries. And now there's a little spot right here where the pink pulled away from the edge. And so now I'm going to grab a little bit of pink. I'll grab the lighter pink and I'm going to fix that edge right there like that. Beautiful. And I can see here where some of the paper is showing underneath. So I'm just going to again add a little bit. There we go. Nice and soft. You see how soft that background is? Ugh, I just love it. I just love it. Love it, love it, love it. Now I'm going to do something a little outside the box. No, I'll wait. I'll wait. I'll do the outside the box thing with the next set. Oh, I'm just so excited. I can't wait. Um, okay, good, good, good. So now I'm seeing, see, there's a little spot right there where the green just pulled away. Eee, That's, but unfortunately, all the green is dry. So I'm just going to put some light blue over top of it. There we go. All right. Oh, right there. A little white hole just opened up where that blue was. Isn't that crazy? It's just nutso. Nutso. Okay. Now it's covered. Yeah, I'm a bit, nerdish that way. I like to watch the paint dry and then fix those holes while I have all the paint available here. Okay, so I'm going to set that aside because that'll need to dry before the next steps. And let's go to this one that we did. Oi! Okay, here we go. And this is the watercolor postcards. Now, the interesting thing about those watercolor postcards that I showed you from, um, who was it? Jack Richardson, is that they're in between a super smooth, which would be considered hot press, and a cold press. So they're not as textured as a cold press, but they're not as smooth as hot press. So they're just perfect all around surface. Okay, I'm not going to use the palette knife anymore. I'm going to retire the palette knife for now, and let's go to a brush. Now this has a straight across the top. I'm just looking to see if I have a filbert, which is rounded on the top. Because when you're doing soft work like this, I find I like the brushes that have the rounded top. Yeah, here's one. So this one has a rounded top. This is a Princeton Catalyst brush, and it's good for oil paints and acrylic paints because it's also snappy. So let's start with this one because I want kind of soft background. So let's start with the yellow, the soft yellow. And here, I find when I use a brush, I'm not less likely to have that pull away that I had when I was using the palette knife. Just the nature of the way the paint goes down. Okay, we're just going to deposit some paint here in in the different sections. And you can do it curved like this. You can do it straight. Um, let's get a little bit medium yellow, maybe. There we go, like that. So they don't all have to be exactly the same. And I usually like to put a little bit of color in another area just besides the one. I usually like to put some of the color in at least two spaces here. Now these are both yellow, but you're going to notice a big difference in the value of the yellow. So this is the palest yellow, and then this is the yellow that was the what we would consider the darkest. So you can see there's a difference, but of course they're all mixed from the same yellow, so they do speak to one another. Let's put some more yellow over here, and maybe I want to do it as like a circles or something. We'll go all the way up here off the edge. It's very relaxing to do this, by the way, because you don't have to think too much on these first layers. It's just a matter of splashing some color on here, basically. No stress whatsoever. Okay, there, I picked up some of the darker yellow. And I have a saying that there's no crying in acrylic. And the reason is because once one of these layers dries, I can go right over top of it with another layer and cover it up. So, no fuss, no muss, nothing to worry about, just have fun. Okay? Permission to play, y'all. So here I've put the color in two places. All right. Now you can choose to clean off your brush or not. I am going to clean off my brush so I don't get, if I, depending on the colors that I'm using, sometimes I just start with the lightest color and go to the darker colors or the other colors. Like I would go from yellow to pink to blue. And sometimes I just leave it on my brush and let the colors blend right on the surface. But tonight we're not doing that. We're going to try to keep our colors somewhat separate. So I'm just getting a bunch of it out of the brush. Now, if I wanted to, could just dip it into the water, not swirl it around, just dip it in. And with the water on it, I can get even more paint out like that. Yay! Okay. So now let's take some of the, I'm going to go with the middle pink at the moment. And let's put some of the, oh my gosh, this color. Oh, it's so beautiful. So beautiful. So that is the mid-tone pink. And sometimes what I'll do so that if somebody's looking at the cards at the same time is I'll go from one card across the tape and into the other card with the same color so that if somebody were to look at them together, they'd say, hey, those were next to each other at some point. I can tell. Okay, here we go. Let's get this corner down here. I'm coming in with the lighter pink now. I just, the lightest of the light colors, I am in heaven. I'm loving them. There we go. You see how I'm just sort of stroking it on? It's okay to have the hand of the artist showing. So when you do the stroke work, sometimes historians can tell who did an artwork by the nature of the strokes. Are they circular strokes? Are they straight strokes? Are they um, scumbled, meaning did the artist do this with them in order to get the paint on the surface? So, don't be afraid to just be yourself. Just be yourself. You don't need to, be anybody else. As I said, I tried doing, I wanted my artwork to look like the other artist, Svetlana art, and mine don't come out anything like hers. But that's because I'm a different artist, and I have a different hand in the way that I apply the paint. And so that is okay. Apply the paint however it makes you happy. This is joyful painting, okay? We are joyfully painting. Yes, we are. Okay, so I've got the pink in two places over here. Let me add a little more pink over here before I dip into the blue, right? So, and like I said, it's okay to overlap the colors, not to worry. Okay, I'm gonna do it like that. And I can come back and add more as it's drying as well. Okay, so I feel like I got all of my pinks on there. Just dip, you don't need to swish, just dip, boop, and get the color off. See, there's even still some yellow on there, but that's okay. And then we're gonna dip into the blue. This baby blue, it just makes my heart sing. Okay. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Just good choice of colors, Flower Gazer. It was Flower Gazer who suggested this combination. So let me just, the interesting thing is if you put blue in a thin layer over top of yellow, it actually will color mix, like the light going through it will give you a color mixture, and then it looks sort of green, which is really cool if you do a thin layer of the blue. That's just it's good to know the nature of color mixing. Okay, let's see. Oh, let's go with a little bit. No, let's take some of this here. Nice. Fabulous. 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 It makes me so happy to do this, and I appreciate that y'all chose to join me for the evening while we play and paint. Woo. Okay, I'm going a little bit darker here, a little bit darker, so that I've got blue and then I've got darker blue, and they're kind of blending into each other, right? And I kind of like the organicness of some of those shapes. Now you may, love geometrics and want to do your splotches very in a very geometric feel. That's fine too. Okay, let's go with some dark blue. What the heck? Why not? Yes. Now my brush has the dark blue and the medium blue on it. So we're getting some variations here. And I'll use the darker blue and the medium blue again. right here. I'm leaving some space for the baby blue because I just love the baby blue. All right, let's put some of this here. There's actually two colors. I'll bring it up for you in a minute so you can see that both colors are here, the dark blue and the medium blue. Now, I might want to come right up here, and then if somebody were to put these together, they'd go, oh, these must have been done at the same time. Okay, there we go. So here, like on this one, can you see the dark blue and like some of the light blue sort of peering through because I had them both on my brush at the same time. All right, I'm going to get some of the darker blue off because I want to go for this beautiful light, light, light blue right there. Okay, so let's put the light, light, light blue over here. If I layer the light blue over top of the pink, what do you think I'm going to get? What's the visual optical blending when you have a light blue? And I'm so glad that you live stream on YouTube. Recently, Whatnot disabled the feature to view past shows for for non-buyers. Oh my gosh. Wow. I did not know that. Man, well, I'm glad that I streamed to YouTube as well. Well, I figured that, I can't go back in on Whatnot and hello, stay home to shop. Welcome in, welcome in. I can't go back into Whatnot and add the description. So to tell y'all where to find these paints, because on Whatnot I sell my finished artwork, and I have a few, just some watercolor paints that I do sell on Whatnot in my shop. But for the most part, I'm selling my artworks on Whatnot. So um, I do like to share with y'all where you can find these paints that I'm using. And I do that. I'm able to do that by putting it in the description on YouTube. They don't have a description feature on Whatnot. Plus, on Whatnot, the video goes away after 90 days. So it's no longer available for you to go back and rewatch, which I understand. They have people streaming every single day. So that takes up a lot of space on the cloud. So it makes sense. But I'm also grateful that YouTube allows us to stream to YouTube. And then that way we have a history. Sellers can access shows if you need to screen record some clips. But yeah, post instead on YouTube. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Oh, this light blue just makes me so happy. And you know what is interesting? Just a little tidbit about me. I have my eldest daughter is now expecting a second boy. So they just did the gender reveal this past week. And now we know that I'm going to have a second grandson because she already has one son who's so cute. And okay, okay. So I'm evaluating, I'm looking, I'm playing. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. One thing that you can do is turn the artwork as you're working on it. Oh, thank you, Flower Gazer, as well. Um, so the turn your artwork, depending on the type of art that you like to do. um I would say you can turn your artwork, in different directions and go, oh, you know what, I don't like what it's doing there, let me pick up some more yellow and we'll just put it right over top of that. And so this is your opportunity to turn it around, look at it, make decisions, maybe change some things, cover some things, because right, if a portion of it is already dry, and thanks Salmon's girl as well, if a portion of it is already dry, then and here white is starting to show because it's drying. Dang. Okay, so let's pick up some pink and put some more pink over top of that because that white is beginning to show. What? Okay, and let's bring it here. So the artist that I had shown you earlier, who's on Instagram, that is the inspiration for these pieces, she doesn't usually go like crazy haywire like I'm doing right now with colors. Let me, if you weren't here earlier, let me come back and show you. Um, okay, hold on. This is the artist that I'm taking inspiration from for tonight, and it's Svetlan's art. She's from Slovenia, and here is some of her artwork. So here she has a pink, a darker pink, and an orange. And then she added the blue with soft pastels, which I'm going to show you how to do shortly. Here she did some more colors, but notice that normally what she does is she'll focus on, for the most part, one color in the background, and then she comes in and puts her accents on there. There's another one. Although this one, she's like kind of going crazy. So, hey, I guess crazy's okay, right? Now here, this pink is, as it's drying, some of the white of the paper is showing back through. So I'm going to grab some more pink like here as well. Let's grab some more pink here. I'm just trying to soften the edges where we've got some hard edges going here. Okay. And over here, I'm going to bring that pink a little bit further. So it's kind of fun as it's drying to, what I'm doing right now is called a dry brush technique. So instead of putting paint on with the top of the brush here, I'm angling the brush down. Instead of brushing like this, I'm angling the brush down a little bit more to get more of that paint off of the belly of the brush like that. And then that gives you some interesting skips and jumps across the surface, and it just makes the surface look more interesting again. Okay, I'm kind of liking where this one is going, but it also needs more pink. The pink is quite light when it dries, and I can see the paper underneath it, so it needed that extra. And then here, can you see sort of the green appearing from the blue being over top of the yellow? Like, okay, I'm just going to put some more blue over top of that. There we go. So you can just play with it until you get the shapes and the density of the paint that you prefer. All right. Now, something that I do that's a little crazy is while the paint is still wet, I will go in with a water soluble pencil. Now, I also often will do it on the paper before I even start with the painting. I'll just use a water soluble pencil or two and go right underneath it, and I don't care. I want it to run as I'm doing my work. But right now I've got some nice wet paint on here. Let me just do this. And I kind of want to do this pink a little bit differently over here. Let's bring some of it like that. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is while this is still kind of wet, whoop, let's do that. I'm going to put a little bit of this light over here. What I'm trying to do is get some wet areas so I can show you what I like to do with the water soluble um, pencils. Okay, let's grab some of this pink right here. Soft, soft, soft. And then over here, how's this looking? I need a little more texture on this yellow over here, so I'm going to add a little bit more. And I don't like that line, so I'm going to add a little bit of yellow there. And I don't like all the blue over here, so I'm just going to, oh, let's do some dark pink. I'm going to bring some dark pink in there. Okay, and a little bit of dark pink in here. So this is permission to play. Now you see the hard line right here? I don't like the hard line, so I'm going to get some of the paint off of here. I'm going to pick up the yellow, and I'm just going to put it right over top of there. Nice, fun. Okay, so we have some fun colors going there. Now let me, this is, for right now, I'm done with this. So I'm gonna get most of the color off and then just put it in water. I just leave it in water. Now, when I fill my water containers, I try to fill my water container to a level where the water goes above the brush and only a little bit of this metal. I don't want the water all the way up here to mess up the wood. Okay. So only a little bit of water in there to be able to cover the brush head and a little bit of the metal. All right. Okay. Now let me get a fun pencil, like a water soluble pencil. So I have these water soluble pencils right here. Ooh, this blue is pretty. So the thing about a water soluble pencil, I showed you before, if it says aquarelle or it has a little paintbrush on the barrel, that means it's a watercolor or water soluble pencil. So what I'm going to do is dip it in some water to get that tip to start releasing more paint. And then I'm going to hold it a little bit differently. And I'm just going to come in here and deposit some color. Now I got some acrylic paint on there, so I'm just going to wipe it off. You see all the color coming off on there? And the nice thing about using a pencil like this is if it gets acrylic paint on it, you just sharpen the pencil and the acrylic paint comes off. You don't have to worry about it. So I'm just dipping this in here. This is a pink one. And okay, I'm going to make some fun marks over here with the pink pencil. And yeah, it's picking up the paint, but that's okay. See how there's paint on the tip right there? I'm just going to wipe that off. Isn't that cool? And then let's see, I'm going to do some over here. The cool thing is a little bit of the color comes off of the pencil. And at the same time, some of the color underneath, if you've done multiple layers, starts to show up. It's just, it's something I like to do. I like to almost scratch back into the surface. Now, these are using water soluble regular size pencils. What a lot of mixed media artists have is they have something called woodies. Have you guys heard of woodies? These are woodies. These are developed by Stabilo for children, but mixed media artists love them. And so I'm going to take this beautiful kind of Caribbean blue and I'm going to get the tip wet. If you want to make sure that the tip is loose, you can just put it on and releasing color. This is just the palette. So I'm just making sure that the tip is wet and ready to go. And now I can just come in here and it does something similar, putting some of that on there, right? It's just fatter. Instead of being a smaller tip, the Stabilo alls have a fatter tip. And then I want to clean the acrylic off of there. So I just use a paper towel. Now, if I go to use it again and the color's not releasing, I can just sharpen it and that will get the color to release if it got a film of acrylic on it. Let's use the pink one. Oh, this pink is so pretty. Let's do this. Get the color to release. Now, the interesting thing is you see this pink color right here that I'm releasing. If I wanted to, I could pick that up with a brush, just a brush like this. And then I could, if I want to do it with a brush, put it on. Okay, so there you have options. And the same thing is true of the this. I could take this, I can, that doesn't, these pencils don't release as well as the woodies. That's why a lot of people like the woodies. But sometimes you can take a brush and put it right on the end like this and pick up color. Ooh, actually, I can see that it's giving me splatter. Let me put some splatter on there. Let me see if I can get any splatter to go down on. I have a few splatter spots, but really the woodies tend to work best for stuff like that. Let me get this brush wet again. And then I'm getting a bunch of color there. And then I'm going to spatter the color right on the surface like this. Okay, cool. Just for something a little different and fun, right? Now, this, of course, I would let sit to dry. And then once it was dry, then I could come back on with markers. And we're going to do that because I already did a set and I've got it over here already dry. So let's just set this aside. Oh, the colors are so juicy. So pretty. Okay, let me do this. So these are two that I did. In these two, I actually used some of the water soluble pencils underneath and did some scribbling before I put the paint on top. So if you look closely, you can see some pencil marks underneath there, right? Kind of fun. But now these are fully dry. I did these yesterday. So let's talk about the mark making that you can do on top of them. Okay. So we were talking earlier about some mark making. This is a mark making sampler that I made to go with the abstract watercolor workshop that we did before together, and that should be on YouTube. Um, but these are just some ideas that we can pull on for making marks here on these. And what do I use to make the marks with? Well, I could use a marker like this, and I've shown you before the micron pens, which I love. Micron pens will work. This surface, because we added gesso, this is a toothy surface. There's no shine except for the shiny paint that I put on there. But you see how the color is not reflecting the light, only the iridescent paint that I put on there. So I love that. I love that flat surface because it makes it super easy to be able to put pens and markers on top of there. So this is the micron pen. The micron pens come with different size tips. So this is a 0.8, and that is 0.8 millimeters is the size of that tip. And so these are standard tips. Um, let me see. Here's one that's a number 1. So that's a little bit bigger. That means 1 millimeter in size on the tip. So that'll give you a bolder line all the way down to this like super ridiculously tiny. Hey, Diamond String One, welcome in, welcome in. So again, this is the Micron pen by Sakura, and it's permanent black ink. And this one is the 0.05. So that means 0.05 millimeters. It's ridiculously tiny if you wanted to do detail lines. But most of the time, I like bolder lines myself. That's what I like. I like the bolder lines. So I would use a permanent pen like this, or I would use a dip pen. So let me find the dip pen here. I know I have one handy. A dip pen like this. Ooh, and I would put a permanent ink on here and then do my drawing. I like the organicness that this kind of a pen gives you, but that's going to take longer to dry, so we're not going to do that. Let me show you. Do I still have the inks out here? No. Usually what I will use in this pen is something called India ink. Some people call it China ink. And what that is when it dries, it is permanent, and it actually, the Bombay brand actually comes in a whole bunch of different colors. So you're not restricted just to black. There are other beautiful India ink colors that you can use. Now, I'm going to set this aside though. We're not going to use this because that India ink takes a little longer to dry. And the ink that comes out of these pens is almost immediate. So that's what I want tonight is I want the almost immediate effect. Now, that's for black lines, if I want to add black lines or shapes. However, if I want to do um, colored lines and shapes, there are these Signo Micron pens, or no, I'm sorry, Signo Uniball pens that have a pigment ink. That means it's a permanent ink in them, and it comes in 10 colors. Don't worry, I'll have a link to it in the description of the video on YouTube tomorrow. But one of my favorites is this is acrylic paint, and these are acrylic paint markers. Oh my gosh, fabulous. Fan freaking tastic. So on my desk here, hold on a second, my phone's gonna fall over. Um, I have this 1970s caddy that I got off of a Whatnot, a seller on Whatnot. This is one of those um, project pieces, right? That you would go into a store in the 1970s or 80s and you could paint it. And it's very functional. And so I have my acrylic markers in here on my desk. In addition, I like to buy from artisans. Interesting, this says S Toledo. And I actually got a couple of different, see the two sizes. So these are handmade by an artisan. And I bought those off of Whatnot. Aren't they beautiful? Oh my gosh. Plus, they're beautiful to hold your beautiful paints. I love that. And so I have uh, what you want to know about acrylic markers is that they come with different or tip sizes. So this is a 1.2 millimeter bullet tip, rounded tip right here. This is a 4 millimeter rounded tip. I like the Pebeo markers, acrylic markers, because you see there's a spare nib in the tip, because oftentimes your nibs get mixed up and you can just pull out the nib and pop in the spare nib that they give you. This is the 4 millimeter round. So this is significantly larger. It covers a larger area or gives you a bolder line. There's chisel tip like that. So especially if you want to do words and you do calligraphy type work, a chisel tip can come in handy for that. And then fine tip. So let me find a fine tip. So there's a fine tip right there. So these are actually acrylic paint. It's just fluid and it's already in a marker for you. And it comes in a whole bunch of different colors. So I just wanted you to be aware that if you're standing there and you're looking at markers, it is important to know what nib size you want. Some actually have a brush nib tip. So for instance, I have this one from Posca, again, the Uni company, the same company that makes these Signos. And so this is a brush tip. You see there? So it's important to know what the tip is on your various markers. And one of my favorite are these big, well, this is again a Posca and it has a big chisel tip. And then this is Pebeo and it has a massive, massive square. So you can get a big line this way and a smaller line that way. And you can see, I mean, I use this one a lot, a lot. So let's try using this one. I'll show you using this one. And I'm also going to show you how to open them. So because this is a giveaway tonight, this acrylic marker in the emerald green. Actually, there's paint on it. No surprise there, but it's wrapped. It's brand new. So I'm going to go ahead and run this one right now as a giveaway. Let's see here. Gibby. So if you're on YouTube and you'd like to participate in the giveaways, just follow the, um, what's it called? Follow the link in the description of the video and it'll bring you over to Whatnot. And then you can get in on the Givey. So we're going to run this giveaway. All right, awesome. Yeah, so I'm going to show you how I use these, but they come with a plastic wrapper. And so, it can be hard to figure out. Yes, I need that, right, Flower Gazer? So it can be hard to figure out how to get the wrapper off. I used to struggle with it. And then I had somebody show me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that is so stinking simple. I wish I knew that before. So you've got a wrapped marker. You just twist the lid and it pops. You see that? Bloop, pops right off. It is that simple. Thank you very much. Oh my gosh. Right? Wow. Let me just set this off to the side here like that. And these are called pump markers. So you do have to pump it. There's a little marble inside there, and that mixes the paint. And then once the paint is mixed, when they come fresh, there's no paint in the nib. So here is again this piece of palette paper. So you have to, some people call them pump markers. So you have to push up and down. So if you see here, I'm pushing down. When you push down, it opens up the inside and allows the paint to flow. So usually I'll give it a couple of pumps and then I'll hold it down for a little bit and then I'll give it a couple of pumps. Now, if I'm going to shake it again, which sometimes I do, remember to put the lid on, because if you don't put the lid back on and then you shake it, phew, sometimes paints go flying. Oh, you can start to see right here, some of the blue was coming down. Flower Gazer said, so cool. I didn't know about these markers. I'll get some for sure. Excellent. Yeah, and it'll be in the description of the video on YouTube where you can go get them from. So you see how the paint's beginning to come down there now? Once it's flowing, you don't have to, well, each time I use them, I pump them, meaning I shake them, and then I pump the tip a couple times to get the paint to flow. So you see how the paint is flowing? Isn't that gorgeous? And what's nice about these chisel tips is that you can get three different line sizes. You can get the wide line size. You can get using it this way, so you get this size, and then you can use the corner, and then you can get that size. So to me, a chisel tip is just a very versatile size of tip, because it lets you get all these various tip mark sizes. And I think that's fabulous. So let's put this away. All right. Well, I'm glad that I introduced something new to you. I think I love acrylic markers and I use acrylic markers all the time. Okay, so let's take, for instance, this one, which is like a Caribbean blue. That's exactly what it is, Caribbean blue. Actually, I may need to start it. So let me pop that off. And this one is 15 millimeters this way, and then 5 millimeters this way, and then you can use it on the tip. So the same sort of thing, you can get all of these really cool marks out of it. Oh my gosh, they're awesome. Okay, let me just shake it a little bit more. I want to be sure that the paint is well mixed in there. Okay. And then I don't want to open it over top of my artwork, because you know how disasters can happen with that. Like there's a little bit of paint here from the mixing, the shaking. So I'm just going to get that excess off of there so it doesn't accidentally drip on my artwork. Now I like to make dashes and dots. So I'm going to take this, and instead of using the wide side, I'm going to use the 5 millimeter, this side right here, so that I can like make dashes. I have made a mess doing that before, right, Salmon's girl? So here we go. I'm going to put some dashes in here just because I love dashes. Okay. And I can make some lines going across this way. So I'll get a thin line. So let's do a few lines here like that. And then I'm going to do a few lines over here like this. So it kind of balances it, right? Isn't that amazing how you can get these different sizes out of that? Does the market take Salmon's girl want it? I'm sorry, Flower Gazer. Does the marker take less time to dry compared to a regular acrylic paint? Um, these dry relatively quickly. I'd say I would give it about a half an hour, something like that. Now, when when the tip is juiced up, like there's a lot of color in it, you can actually take a brush and do this and get oh my gosh, you can get uh splatter, which is awesome. I use these for splatter all the time. Most of the time I'm using like this size, like a 4 millimeter, like this is usually what I use to get spatters with. So we'll try it with, which one is this, oh, that's orange. I don't want orange. What do I have here? Okay, we'll use this yellow one right here and do some spatter with that. So I'm going to put the lid back on here. I already have it all over my hands. What? Okay. Let me see. It's just instinctive. As soon as I get a marker, an acrylic marker in my hand, I start shaking it. Okay. And I'm going to use this, and I'm going to, this was the 4 millimeter bullet tip. So I make sure that the paint is flowing, right? I juice it up like this. And then I go like this. Oh, yes. That makes me so happy right now. I can't even tell you. I love that. Yes. Fantastic. So I'll usually do that at the end, okay? Is I'll go in and I'll do a spatter at the end, but you can do it at any point in the process. But these, because these are so juicy, it makes it easy to do the spatter technique with them. Oh, yes. Love it. Okay, let me make sure the pink is moving along, moving along, moving along. This is fluorescent pink. Okay, my favorite marker of all is the fluorescent pink marker. I can't help it. I just love it. So let's do some more shapes over here. Now this is a 1.2 millimeter tip. So what kind of shape am I going to put in here? What if I put little circles? Why not? They're kind of fun. And that way I can control where they go compared to the little dots that are here. And maybe I'll put some dots because I love dots too. Dots are cool. Nice. Like this. And then I'll make it pretend like it's going through these over to this side. Right? It's beginning to look so pretty. I can't help it. You see that? Nice. And I would probably bring this down here like this, a little bit more, put a few dots down here. Just sort of make it like random, but it's sort of flowing across the page like that. But you see how bright the fluorescent pink is? Yes, thank you, Salmon's Girl. Loving it. All right, let's say that over here, instead of working with the acrylic pens, I'm going to use the Micron pen. And then I'm going to put some details in with these colored Signo, okay? So I do love to do pods, and I like to do just very thin, long leaves. Yeah, you love the Salmon's Girls like me too. I think you love the fluorescent pink as well. You generally don't see me giving away the fluorescence because I use the fluorescence a lot. So I'm like, no, I can't give that away. Sometimes I'll ask Pebio, I'll be like, can you give me like an extra fluorescent so I can give it away? So here is the number one. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little piece of paper here and make sure that the ink is flowing correctly, right? Because these Micron pens, they're called Pigma, Sakura Pigma Micron, and they run out. So I actually buy them like this. Let me find. Yeah, you can buy them open stock, meaning you can buy individual um containers, but hold on, I'm trying not to get this on anything. I wanted to show you the packaging. So this is the packaging. It says the Micron Pigma by Sakura. Okay, but I'll have a link to it in the description of the video on YouTube. And this is what we're using right now is the 1.0, what they call the graphic size. A lot of manga artists, I don't know if you're familiar with manga, but manga is Japanese cartoons. And a lot of manga artists use these Pigma markers and because they're making made in Japan. Okay, so I'm gonna put a leaf here. We're gonna do a pretty, just a pretty leaf. So I'm gonna bring this here. And this surface is nice and toothy, like I was saying. So you can either do it with this, you can do it with pencil, like the beautiful colored pencils. That works too. And then I'm gonna come up here. I'm gonna do another one. And then I'm gonna come up here like this. And I'm gonna put another one. Pretty leaves. There we go, like that. Just very simple, right? And then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back in with pencils and with these micron pens. So I'm going to start with the pencils. And I've shown you before there are pencils that are um, water soluble and pencils that are not water soluble. So it's up to you. At this point, if I'm not putting any more wet paint on there, I can use either one, either type of pencil. So what I did before was I used, isn't this cool? This is called a chameleon pencil. It has a light version on one end and a darker version on the other. I just thought they were so cool. So I'm going to use the light version over here, and I'm just drawing. The nice thing about the fact that this paint has gesso in it is it's a good surface for you to draw on. Now I'm switched to the darker side, so it's like it's in the shadow of the leaf above. And I'm just drawing some designs on there. So yes, you can take your colored pencils and come in and do your designs right on top. And then I'm going to use the marker here to do some other shapes on there. Now, what you're going to notice is that the area here, can you see the shimmer of the white? Yes, you can. So this was straight out of the tube, and it's an iridescent, I love it. It's iridescent white acrylic, but I did not add any gesso to it because I wanted it to be shiny. And what's happening is you can't really see the pencil over it. Do you see that? The pencil like slips right over top of it. And that's because regular acrylic paint is slippery, and it's not good for writing on, which is why I added the gesso to my colors so that it would dry with a nice surface that I can draw on. Okay, so that is a trick. Let me do this one. I'm going to do some light on this side and do my dark on the other side, and then switch it around. These are cool, aren't they? I mean, I have pots and pots of colored pencils. So this is on my desk. This is what I just pulled this from. These are the non-water soluble pencils that I have on my desk in a Japanese teacup. And then these are the water soluble pencil that I have on my desk in a beautiful, again, handmade container. But at this point, I can use either the non-water soluble like this, or I can even use the water soluble because I'm not going back over it with water or anything, right? Now, so that was putting pencil on there. Beautiful with the gesso, it makes a beautiful pencil surface. And then I'm going to come in with the let's put a couple little leaves on with this pigment ink signo. Now these say broad on them. That means they're 1 millimeter a tip roller ball. So again, I'm going to need a piece of paper like this to get the ink going on it, because this is literally the first time I'm using it. But what I like to do, and just me, is I like to go over top of these lines like this in sort of a more organic way, like that. And I'll do it to all three of them, and then I'll bring it and I'll show you. So it's sort of just adding a little more zhuzh to it. Adding more zhuzh. And then this one, I'm going to bring it down like this. Group. And this one, I'm going over it. And then I'm bringing it over it again. And then I'm bringing this down like this. So the black line is still there, but I'm just going over top of it with some fun lines. Can you see that? And can you see the fact that they shimmer a little bit? So this ink, this Signo Uniball ink is a little bit shimmery. It's kind of fun. Okay, and then let's put some berries on it. Ooh, maybe we'll use this to put little dots, make it look like little berries, right? Here, let's do this. I'm gonna use the Signo, what color? This says metallic red. So I'm gonna do some little berries here with the metallic red, and then I'm gonna fill them with the fluorescent pink. How about that? Nice. Let's do another one over here. Hee hee hee. Just for the fun of it. And then you can take this, and I like to use the end of this just to put like dots like that. So I'm filling it with the pink dots just for something different, right? But that's how you can, this is actually mixed media where you're using acrylic paint and you're using markers and you're using pigment inks like this. And I might say, okay, let's just put some more dots out here. So I can actually do the dots and then come back in after the dots are dry. And then I can do my lines around them like that. So you can do it in different order. What I would recommend though is just don't get acrylic paint. Like this is an acrylic paint marker. I love the multifaceted woman in the arts. Thank you very much. What is it? Nikki Lasida. Thank you. Thank you. Um, don't get the ball end of these uniball markers into your acrylic paint, like even the acrylic paint markers, because acrylic paint will get inside the little roller ball area and then they won't work anymore. And it's annoying. You don't want to do that. So usually I will put the dots on with acrylic paint and then I will wait and then go back and use my pens like this afterwards to put the little details in there so that I don't actually make this up. I need to make chili. Ah, okay. So another of my favorite colors here is the gold. So the gold Uniball, oh my gosh, it makes such a beautiful accent. And so why don't we just put like a little bit of gold up here? I'm just wanting to put like, okay, the sun is shining and it's hitting the leaves right here. So I'm just adding a little bit of gold to that. Can you see that? A little bit of gold like that. And so I just do this. I'll go in and out and select different media. I can even come on with the woodies that I showed you earlier and just play with those. Let's just play like this. I'm just sort of going around it. It's just adding a little bit more dimension to it. There we go. Because this is kind of like a very similar to an oil pastel, but in a stick form. And so you can just add more, more. That's what mixed media is all about, right? Adding more. Ah, yeah, Nikki, we're keeping it to questions about art here, if you don't mind. I know you're asking about dinner. I actually when I have a workshop like this and I know I'm going to be busy for hours, earlier in the day, I put on a um, crock pot and I fill it with all kinds of goodies. And then I have a crock pot meal ready for me when I'm finished doing my whatnot shows. So if your whatnot shows tend to go long, then that's my suggestion because when I get finished here after a 4 hour whatnot session, I can just walk in the kitchen and I have a delicious meal. As a matter of fact, it smells amazing right now. Thank you, Nikki. Yes, I love that. It's we have to be smart, right? Oh, okay. So normally I will come back to these and I'll just do more and do more and do more. But what I'm going to do is this is the end of the workshop for this evening. I'm going to run the last giveaway for the night and and then we're going to get into the auction part of the show. So the givey is going to be not these but one of these. I mentioned to you that these are 4 by 6 postcards. I showed you the postcards. Oh, you know what? There's one more thing that we have to do that I'm seeing right now. One more thing we have to do. The fact that this is a nice and toothy surface, we can use soft pastels on the surface and get like this really neat sort of otherworldly orb type look. So what I want to do is I want to show you how that works. What you want is extra soft. So you see here where this says extra soft, these are Sennelier um, soft pastels. And so we're going to accent the art with the soft pastels. So what I like about Sennelier is their sets. So this is a set that I use quite often that has a whole selection of colors in it. But then they also have these sets of, oh, and that has 20. And they're called demi pastels, meaning they're like half sticks of pastel. And then these are also half sticks of pastel. But and what I like is that Sennelier is the name of the company, Sennelier. They actually have these really cute little sets of 6 that are in different color families or different like this one happens to be what do they call it, summer sky, and so all of these are in the blue family. But they have a bunch of good sets of these. If you wanted to just try it, you could try with this demi pastel that's a half stick in these sets of 6. It's a great way to get your feet wet and see whether it's a technique that you like. So you can see these various grays and blues in here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this sort of Caribbean blue almost. And I'm going to come in here. I'm going to show you how the other artist makes these really cute little orbs on her artwork. Soft, soft colors. So I'm going to make sure that my hands are somewhat clean because soft pastels get on your hands. So I'm going to wipe this off to be sure I don't have excess pigment on there. And then I'm just going to go in a circle, circle, around, around, around. And because we created the toothy surface with the gesso, you're going to see that it creates a soft little circle of color. Now I'm going to go a little bit more around there. And actually, what I do sometimes is I actually mix the colors. So I will take this sort of whitish one and I'll put that right on top of the other one to lighten the color a little bit. You can lighten it, you can darken it by layering. And then I'll take my finger again and I'll just do this. And that's blending the 2 colors together. And it's giving you like this really soft little orb kind of feature within your page. Isn't that amazing? Let me do one over here so you can see in a different color. And so I'm gonna pop this open. Oh, neat. Yeah, right, Salmon's Girl? It's like so different, so different. Okay, so this is the demi pastel, meaning they're half sticks. in the 20 colors. This is an awesome set if you've never tried it before. Of course, if you want to just experiment, man, I got to start mixing my supplies and my art, right, Salmon's girl? So this is the demi pastel set of 6, but if you want to have a little more of a range, this set of 20 is excellent. Now what I'm doing is wiping off my hand because I don't want residual color on here, and I was going to take this pink. Right, let's do something with the pink. Now what I've discovered is that this pink is quite dark, so let me show you when I put it on a piece of paper here. Come here, paper. So if I put this pink on a piece of paper and I do that, it's a little bit dark. So I'm going to layer. I'm going to start with a little bit of white. Actually, there's this like icy blue right here. So let's start with like, let's go up in here. And I'm going to start with like an icy blue. And then I'm going to put the pink on top of it because I'm going to blend the colors together. Okay. 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 Here we go. Cleaning off my fingers. And then you can use any one of your fingers to do this. And then I'm going to do this. And you're going to get this really soft, soft little orb going. You see that? Isn't that cool? Oh my gosh, it's so cool. Okay, let's put a little more pink. I want it to have a little more punch. So a little more pink. Now, the thing is, though, if I were to take an eraser to that, it would erase, it would come off. Okay. Um, so if you finish your piece and you have these little orbs on there and you want to fix the orbs to the surface, you're going to need to use some sort of fixative. So this is my favorite in the studio fixative. It doesn't have a bad smell to it because it's a pump spray, and it's what Degas used on his pastels. So it's perfect for using over soft pastel, which is what these are, oil pastel, chalk, Conti crayons, which is similar but a little harder, colored pencil, graphite, and charcoal. So any of those items, you can use this to spray on top of. So I can fix this painting. I can finish it by using this Degas fixative. This is my favorite because when it goes on, first of all, you can use it in the studio, and it doesn't smell bad. The normal ones I use, this Kamar varnish, is in an aerosol can, and I have to use this outside because it stinks, stinks. But this one doesn't stink, and it's just this kind of propellant. There's no propellant in it, it just pump sprays. And you don't spray it directly at your artwork. You hold it up like this, and then you spray and let it fall down on your artwork. That's the most gentle. All right. Oh, yeah, that other does. Right. It smells bad. And the cool thing about this Degas fixative that I've found through the years is that it doesn't, there's an imperceptible, almost, you almost don't notice it change in the color of your artwork. Some other uh, spray fixatives will actually darken your artwork, but this one in particular, I've found doesn't have that dramatic change in color effect. It's my studio favorite. So when I finish these, because I'll go back and add a few more of these little orbs and a few more little dots and dashes, then I will spray it with this fixative, and that will lock that into the surface. I usually will do two coats. So I'll do one coat going one way, and then I'll turn the paper, and then I'll do it. And so in essence, I'm doing a second coat going in the other direction to catch everything. But definitely my favorite. Okay, now it's the end of the workshop.